What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the After Work Anime Club podcast. I am your main host, Lulu Soul, and joining me today is...
You can call me Ninja, and you could find me at youtube.com/ninjatwan or twitch.tv/ninjatwan.
So anyone who's watching this podcast by now probably knows what happens normally now. We talk about the anime without having seen it, then we watch 3 episodes, then we talk about it. But this time, I was actually challenged by Ninja. You had a very specific anime that you wanted me to watch today.
Yeah, because I saw your previous video about the stepsister video.
Oh
I thought
gosh.
this would be I thought this would be a good pick because I'm really into rom-coms, especially when shonen anime and such calm down quite a bit. So I thought this would be a good fit for not only a comedic talk, but a discussion about like how good rom-coms can actually be. And in this situation, I think they do a really good job. So
I'm not gonna lie, I thought you were gonna say that you were really into stepsisters.
oh geez.
So just a brief, like I've watched 4 episodes of this anime so far, and we're gonna get into that. But before we do, I'd like you to like give us a brief synopsis of what the anime is and why you chose this specific one for the rom-com today.
Okay, so first I'll talk about why I chose it. I chose it because I've been watching it since it released, and sometimes, so I have like 2 buckets of anime that I watch. I have my anticipated anime and my this is probably trash and I'm gonna hate it, but I need something to watch anime. And I thought this was gonna fall into the secondary box, but quickly it ended up in my like I have to watch this weekly. The anime is called Alya Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian. And I thought it was a good fit because not only is it comedic, but also is very endearing. And I'm pretty sure the last time I suggested an anime, you told me you're not going to watch it because it had too much going on. So,
well, hold up. I watched all of season 1 of Re:Zero. Every single painful episode, I watched it.
Yeah, and I'm proud of you for doing that, but I'm sorry for subjecting you to it at the same time.
You know what? I recently rewatched Madoka Magica with another friend of mine, which was one of 2 hate watch anime. The other one was in fact Re:Zero.
There's actually like a precedence to watch Madoka and enjoy it just to watch all the evil magicians just get wiped out.
It might be time for another review of my most hated anime to see if it was the time period with which I watched it or if the anime was really as terrible. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about Alya, her feelings, and speaking in Russian.
Yeah, which like I said, very endearing. I chose this because you had mentioned in the previous video you kind of enjoyed it, but you were off put by the stylistic way it was. It was very slow, and it kind of just was like, and if you're on the same page as me, kind of empty. It felt in the first couple of episodes.
Empty's a good word for it.
This was the complete opposite, and that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention.
Now this was actually on my list of I want to find an excuse to watch this anime. So I was really happy when you when you brought it up.
Nice. So I watched most of it so far. I'm caught up. There's 1 episode out today that I haven't watched yet. So you watched 4 episodes today. What did you think about it? Like, what's your first impression of it so far?
Okay, so I actually have 1 major complaint, but I'm going to get to that later because it doesn't happen until episode 4.
Okay.
But we're going to set that 1 major complaint aside because this is one of 2 anime this season that I have picked up that just feels like a breath of fresh air.
Okay.
I love Alya. I love the main character guy whose name I can't remember. There's an M and it's a long name. I think his last name is Ruka.
I want to call him Mishka, but I don't think that's what it is. I sometimes feel like she's also pronouncing his name in Russian.
So he might be.
It's usually like, yeah, it's a little weird. And I'll double check what his name is real quick just to verify because I don't want to be wrong.
Yeah, I can honestly say this is one of those anime that every new character I meet, I just fall more in love. The anime isn't necessarily doing anything abnormal. Like it's a very it's kind of like you said, it's a rom-com slice of life school life anime where
Mhm.
this main character, her native language I believe is Russian, and whenever she wants to say something without anybody around knowing what she's saying, she speaks in Russian.
I want to interject here because, like, who thought that like Russian was the language to bring to Japan? Because that's like the biggest thing. I was like, okay, in Russian, because we've seen like Komi can't communicate and stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, this has to be something similar. I didn't catch the Russian part. I just saw Alya sometimes hides her feelings,
I actually
and then I
haven't
watched it.
I haven't seen Komi Can't Communicate.
Oh, it's another really like endearing, cute, like it's somebody that doesn't have friends and can't really like relate with other people kind of anime. But this, I didn't see the name Russian in the title until after I watched the first episode. I was like, why is she speaking Russian? This doesn't make sense. And the name of the main character is it's Masachika. Technically, but his last name is Kuze, so I think it's Masashika, or I'm not sure, but close enough. Again, I think she kind of pronounces it in Russian, so it sounds weird.
I will say within like the first like 5 or 6 minutes of watching episode one, I actually messaged my buddy Sharko, and I'm like, oh my god, Sharko, this dude is me if I were a dude.
Oh no. Yeah,
Like
he's actually a really good character.
he really is, but specifically, he's doing the gotcha game, and she takes his phone from him, and she calls him a. I think she calls him a no. Does she call
It's
him
a
a whale?
whale. Yeah, it's a whale. Yeah. That was the first attack, and I was like,
An
ah,
obsessed whale, and he's like, whoa,
yes.
whoa, 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 hold up! I've not put money into this game.
I'm a free to play person.
It's
Yeah.
like, this is me. This is me with Pokemon Unite. This is me when I played Genshin Impact. Like, I will defend to the death the game's ability to be played via free play.
I just avoid them altogether, if I'm being honest with you, because I'm scared. Because I'm like, I don't have addictive personality, but I'm afraid that there's going to be a day that I'm like, I need that 5-star character. Let me pay $100,000 to get it, and it's going to ruin me.
You know what I want? I want one day. I want a video game that is modeled after the gotcha style mechanics, except it's all in-game currency. Like the whole point of the game is to collect all the gotchas, and you do that by earning money around your neighborhood or something to put into the
So you
gotcha
want
machines.
so you want to play Pokemon? Got it.
No, 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 no. I want to play a game that's almost just like Pokemon, but completely different at the same time.
Because you got to catch them all, you know.
Yeah. I mean, Pokemon was originally a gotcha. It was a Pocket Monsters.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I really thought that scene when she was kind of like, and I always say like she's kind of berating him, but obviously she's only doing that because she's like somehow a Russian student today, which is also weird. So when she called him a whale, I was like, oh no, this is gonna turn into like he's a gamer nerd and she's like the cute, foreigner, and like this whole show is going to be about her berating him, and then it evolved into something that I didn't expect. So that was really good.
That's so I love that he's a father mucking nerd. Like the amount of times they just make references that if you know, you know, but if you know, you almost feel bad for knowing.
Hmm.
But at the same time, he is so incredibly competent as a character.
Weirdly competent, yeah. I think she makes a joke in the first few episodes, or not makes a joke, but there's like a cutscene, or not a cutscene, a flashback of her when she's talking about how like everybody around her is useless essentially, and she has to do everything herself. And then watching like a character that you're like, oh yeah, he probably is that character, step up and like help
And
with things that
actually
you
be
wouldn't
really,
expect.
really good at gathering people together.
Yeah, because we're so used to the main character being completely useless and not knowing what's going on around him, as well as not knowing that the female lead is interested in him also, which is a good change.
It's
So
so
yeah, I agree.
nice. He's just like, this girl, what is going on?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely into this, and I have been for a while. I've actually been telling everybody about it because, again, like it wasn't on my radar. It was in my throwaway bucket, but man, I'm so glad I got into it.
It's cute, it's pretty, it's fun. For the most part, it seems to be fairly lighthearted.
Gets a
I
little fan servicey later on, but it's not that bad. I think it's kind of like fan service like compared to a lot of other stuff.
Well,
But
when you originally said, because you did warn me that there was a little bit of fan service, and so I was expecting like, because
a lot,
I'm a child of the '90s, so
right?
the rom coms that I was raised on is like you get some type of fan service like every 5 seconds. So I was like, okay, let's go. Let's see the boob jiggle physics here. Um, but for the most part, it's been pretty tame. It's been pretty tasteful, and I've honestly appreciated that. Not that I
I
don't
don't
like fan service. I do. I enjoy it quite a bit, but
nice. I
it
don't want to say it's like I didn't want to oversell it. It's so heavily muted. And for me, I'm going to say this: it is refreshing because they're high schoolers at the same time.
yeah.
So like they do have like some things that do happen. I don't want to obviously spoil anything for you because you're watching it now, hopefully.
Oh yeah.
But there is an episode where it was like, okay, this is getting a little spicy. What's going to happen here? And then it just ends, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that was tasteful. You know what I mean? As opposed to them taking it way too far. And I think in episode 3 or 4, you kind of get like a little bit of that when they're going on their outing.
Oh yeah, when they so this is the part in the episode where I'm going to flash the spoiler warning sign a few times because I like for the first pass part of the podcast episode to try and be as generic as possible for anyone who hasn't seen it might want to watch it, but at this point, if you haven't seen it, go watch at least the first 4 episodes because we are taking the gloves off. We're just not going to worry about spoilers. That's really
um, I want to talk about something that like I really love about this anime that they've done because there's always been like split family anime where like and I'll reference a specific one. It's Irregular Magic High School. I don't know if you've seen it or
I
not, but
haven't. No, I haven't seen that one either.
so just a really brief. It's about this guy who is like magically inept as far as calculations go, meaning they test him and based off of his inability to control magic, like normal people, he's written off as an irregular. He's not good enough. But his sister is like considered like a prodigy. But he ends up being like the master of magic, essentially, right? It's one of those like, I'm really bad, but actually I'm the strongest kind of thing. But because he's an irregular, the family kind of shuns him and treats him like an outcast. But his sister is like essentially in love with him, because she knows his
Uh,
potential. And that's kind of like what's like kind of that feeling that you get in this anime because you immediately meet his sister, who is like in his bed, rolling around on the couch and stuff, like, hey, read this manga with me and stuff. Like her character is phenomenal and I love it.
I do too. She is a really good example of like has a completely different personality outside of school versus inside of school.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like either one of her personalities are fake. They're just how she presents herself.
It's so great how she's just an otaku, but like nobody knows except for him. I think it's awesome.
She is savage though, like when they go and they eat the ramen and she doesn't speak Russian, but she knows that he does and just messes with the girl, messes with Alya.
So I don't know if you noticed, but she understands.
Oh, she does? Okay,
Yeah.
there was another scene where she asks her brother what Alya said. So
I
I thought
think
that
there's
she
kind of
couldn't
like
speak it.
a yeah, I think there's kind of like a weird I don't know if it's that she understands or that like because she knows that her brother knows Russian, maybe that's kind of like the feeling I got. I thought she understood Russian based off of the vibe that I got, but I could be wrong. But yeah, it was really interesting. The spicy ramen table.
Poor girl.
Yeah, she definitely suffered for trying to fit in there. But she's trying to again fit in and she likes this guy and she doesn't want to lose to the other female because she doesn't know who she is. So,
And the other female is running with that.
oh yes, oh yes. And we get to see another character later on that does essentially the same thing, but
No.
it's Alya's sister, which is just
Oh
as
yeah,
good.
I've met her. I've met her. She's okay. I'm only 4 episodes in. You don't have to tell me if I'm right or wrong. But she's
Mhm.
the childhood friend and the reason Duma Flugen knows Russian.
So we still don't know that.
Okay, so
If we're talking about plot, like specifically, that
yeah.
is the assumption, but we don't know because they haven't really not. So okay, I guess I'll explain why I think this. It's because in the first 4 episodes, like obviously they show the flashbacks of like him talking to this girl at the playground, and he's like, I wanted to learn Russian so that I can communicate with her and be friends with her. But then he meets this random Russian girl many moons later, and like she's talking in both Japanese and Russian. So they're kind of like putting on the train or camp of she's the same girl, but nobody's confirmed it. The mom hasn't confirmed it. The sister,
Well, okay,
her
so
sister, nobody's confirmed it.
so at first I thought Alia herself was the childhood friend.
Right.
Because I was like, what are the odds that within 10 years you run into two two girls of the same age that speaks Russian in the same
Right.
town in Japan within the same like lifespan of you? Like, I
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
personally know how many Russian people live in Japan, but I'm willing to bet it's not a lot.
It's very low, yeah. And we've seen this in other anime too. Like, there's a lot of like rom-com anime where it's like, oh, we met when we were kids, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, it's a very
you
big
didn't know
trope.
I was your childhood friend. Yeah.
But so here's like at first I thought it was Arlia. Alia. I'm gonna keep messing up her name.
Okay.
But when her sister, who has around her neck the locket with the face of a boy in it, you don't get to see his face, but you just see that it's a boy, and she keeps talking about like her love, her love, her love, and all of the memories and how sweet and kind, how he protected her from a dog when they were children.
Hmm.
And then when she meets main character guy and they go to shake hands, she's like, what's your surname? And he tells her, and she gets like this flash of recognition.
Hmm.
So I think it's the older sister that is the childhood friend, though neither one of their hair colors match the girl from the memories. Um, though for all I know, it could be a full on love Hina situation where somehow it's both of them that is from his
So
childhood friend.
a quick correction: she's his younger sister, and
No,
she, I, hmm?
I'm talking about Alia and her sister. It's
Oh, Ali and her
yeah,
sister. Okay, gotcha, gotcha.
because I know the main character guy's sister is his younger sister,
Hmm.
and
Right.
I'm very curious to learn a little bit more because he's got some kind of trauma from being in the student council before.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything for
Well,
you.
yeah, yeah.
But the way things start unfolding is very interesting because, and not because they're trying. She's trying to like get him to join with them or whatever. Um, how can I explain this without going any further? So I'm trying to think of how far they went in episode 4. One sec, because I need to make sure that I don't say anything that I shouldn't, because I want
uh,
to make sure
we
because
haven't
they did the
learned.
outing.
Yeah, they did the outing. We haven't learned too much about his past, just that he was on the student council. He feels like he didn't deserve the position he had because his dreams weren't lofty enough. And he has
Right.
now been convinced by the current student council president to join, and he has told Alia that he is going to help her run for president.
Okay. Right. Okay. Cool. So, with all of those things that have happened, it expounds. It's literally, I think, the next episode where it kind of goes further in his background. So, when you're talking about trauma, like just to kind of like give you something to think about, why are him and his sister hiding the fact that they're brother and sister? So there's a lot that goes on there, and that you'll learn as things go on. And even the episode that I watched last week, you finally start understanding, like, which is episode 9, is where you kind of get a better understanding as why there's that tension that he has about rejoining the student council and helping his sister as opposed to helping Alya. So it gets really interesting. Like, I didn't think it was gonna fork the story the way it does, but once it starts happening, like, you start understanding a little bit more of, like, oh wow, like that's why he acts the way he does, and like, let's see if he kind of like breaks out of this mold or continues going in the direction that he's going. So yeah, it's a lot smarter of a plot than I expected for a rom-com. So I'm excited to see like your future thoughts on what's happening.
Speaking of which, I will say that this is an anime that absolutely needs that 3 episode rule. And
Hmm.
it passes the vibe check for me, like 100%. Like, I went on beyond episode 3. The only reason I stopped watching is we needed to record this podcast.
Nice.
But when I was watching episode 1, I was like, okay, this is really cute. This is really refreshing, but I don't really know how they can keep this trope going beyond like 3 or 4 episodes with the whole, she says cute things in Russian, he understands, he freaks out a little bit, haha, it's all funny, cute, and adorable. And I was like, okay, is this going to turn into like an episodic slice of life where we repeat the same thing and jokes over and over again? And that is not what this show is doing.
They don't do it that much. Yeah, it
Y'all,
doesn't happen that often.
there is a plot here, there is a narrative, and I am for
Hmm.
it. Like,
Yeah, it's cool because like, just like you said, I was like, man, she's gonna talk in Russian half the show, and I'm not gonna, because I'm steadily learning Japanese watching anime, and now you threw a new language at me, and I'm very hard pressed to, like, now I have to read what's on the screen. And fortunately, like you said, like, it's not as often. Actually, I feel like that has actually tapered off more going forward as well. But they do introduce some Russian culture stuff, which is really cool, that you never get and that I would have never known either. So I actually feel like I'm learning something while I'm watching it too.
and like, I don't mind the trope of her speaking in Russian, like it's in the name of the anime, but so there's a trend that's been going on, and I basically they're a collection of scene by scene shorts. Like, you could watch it more or less completely out of order.
Ah, gotcha.
Each episode, and sometimes several scenes within the episode, are just short jokes.
Hmm.
And the narrative wise, not a lot happens. They're like in a time locked bubble. I don't
Okay.
tend to enjoy those anime quite as much because after you've seen the joke a few times, it's like, okay, I'm ready for character development. Please give
A
me
plot.
something. Yeah. And that's what I thought
Aria.
Arya hides her feelings in Russian was gonna be. Names are hard.
Yeah, yeah. Especially because it's like a Japanese Russian name. It's kind of difficult. I don't blame you.
Uh,
Trust me.
and I'm really happy that I was incorrect and that there is a really nice narrative that is unfolding so far.
Yeah, I'm glad that I could bring it to your attention because it, to me, like I said, I watch a lot weirdly. I think weirdly. A lot of people think it's weird that I don't just watch shonen anime, but
I think it's
weirdly,
great.
yeah, and I don't watch a lot of slice of life unless it's comedy based. And this one just, it was instant. After the whale joke in the beginning, I was like, okay, where are we going with this? And then he had the best comeback, and then the back and forth between the two characters, it just pulled me right in. So they won me over with this really quick.
Oh my god. So later in I think it might be in episode 2. I don't know if it shows up in episode 1, but it's definitely in episode 2 if not. When he gets home and his sister's there, and that's when you find out that she's his sister.
Yes.
And
Wait, was it episode 2?
I don't
Yes,
remember.
episode
I think it
2.
was episode 2. But they have
Mhm.
a conversation because she is reading a manga with um in which there's the brother and the sister in the manga are like are kissing, and like it's a very common trope of rom-coms with you have two characters that are siblings. Some type of really weird, awkward romantic tension is going to happen there.
Yeah, she has a brocon, is what they call it, a brocon or a siscon.
Yeah.
Where it's like a sister comedy or brother comedy where she's in love with him and vice versa. But yeah, that was my thought too. But like as soon as we met Yuki, I was like, okay, she's gonna be like the jealous sister type. Let's see what happens here. And then she just ended up being hilarious, and I love it.
They feel like siblings. Like even
Yes.
and that's why I thought it was hilarious that they have that conversation about the manga she's reading, and she's like, it's not, because he's like, oh yeah, they're probably just like step siblings or something, and she's like, it doesn't count if they're not blood related.
She says specifically because I queued up some of the scenes so I could like have reference, and she says, "Ah, yes, an unknown hot guy walking with the heroine. Gotta be her brother, older from the looks of it." So good because obviously he's the older brother, but they did such a good job with this. I couldn't sing the praises of this any more than I have, and I'm so glad that you vibed with it because I definitely am loving it.
Like even with the scene a little bit later when she wakes him up, and now even if you haven't watched anime of this season, if you have watched a YouTube content creator that is reviewing the anime of this season, or if you just watch memes of anime of this season, you've seen this scene. It is the scene where the little sister is on top of her brother and she goes, "Good morning, Misan."
Yep, exactly. And
I
he calls her a DV.
domestic violence. So I
Oh man.
love how that scene, one, it knows exactly what it's doing there. It knows the trope that it's making fun of there.
Yeah,
But
it's so like it's so awake with what it yeah, like you're saying, like hey, this is something that we've seen in other anime. Let's make fun of it and also somehow make it endearing. I don't understand how they're doing such a great job.
well, it's
So
because
good.
they actually act like siblings.
All right.
Like he's not like, oh my god, even though it's my sister, there's still a woman on top of me. He's like, bro,
Right,
why are
right.
you the way you are? Please get off of me.
Yep. Because in a lot of these anime, they usually make these scenes more adult, right? And it's like, oh, I can feel something out of the blanket, big brother. What's that? And you're like, oh God, here we go.
And she does
And it
make
gets a
that
little weird.
comment. She's like,
She
what?
does.
Are you
Yeah.
pitching a tent?
She says getting a stiffy, and
That's
he's like,
right.
die.
Yeah, he's
It's
like,
like,
yeah, die, fuck you. Like, just get off of me, get out of my room. Why did you like? You don't even live here today.
right, right. You don't even go to the school. What are you doing here?
But I love it is so like I said, it's refreshing. It's a breath of fresh air because you have these siblings who legas act like siblings.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
What did you think about the relationship between Alya and her sister?
I think we're going to get some more information around that. Um, because I think that they have spent time where they were not living together.
Okay,
Because
fair.
her sister seems to know a lot more about Japanese culture than Alia does.
Hmm.
And they seem to just have this relationship of they both seem to want to be closer than they are.
Okay.
Like her older sister definitely has a little bit of a sister complex going on, and she's to the point of, if my theory is correct, choosing to give up the guy that she has been in love with since she was like too young to know what love is because her sister likes the same guy.
She might have been a blonde instead of what color her hair is now. Is that what you're
Yeah.
thinking?
I mean, but
Okay.
all you have children all the time that are born blonde and then their hair fades to a darker brown as they get older.
Facts.
Or like,
Um,
it could be dyed.
did you know that the reason why they typically select blonde hair in anime is to depict like European heritage? I wonder if like they're like, what should we do for Russian hair? And they're like, okay, we'll just pick gray because like
Yeah,
it's different than what we usually do.
it's absolutely. Look at
So
Yuri on Ice.
why is her sister's hair brown though? That's my biggest question is like why didn't they alter her hair?
Well,
So I don't.
I think I remember at some point them stating that they are half Japanese, half Russian.
Right.
So that could be it. It could be also a way to differentiate the two characters. Because her hair is still a lot lighter than
True.
other characters in the show.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with the siblings. Obviously, I know a little bit more of what's going on, but um, because now that you've mentioned, like maybe the older sister could have been the girl at the park, I'm curious to see what happens. Because I didn't really put those two things together because she does act really familiar with him, but I don't know if that's because in some anime like the big sister Oni-chan wants to suss out whether the boy is good enough for their younger sibling, and maybe that's a little bit of this, and she's teasing him. But I'll be interested to see like how far it goes going forward, and I really hope that this is a continual show because we're already at episode 10, so that means we probably only have 2 episodes left. So I'm sad and also interested.
Now that being said, it is time to move on to complaints about the
Ah,
anime. I said I had one. I actually have two. Um,
okay, okay.
but do you have any? Is there anything about the show that rubbed you the wrong way?
Rub me the wrong way, no. But there are some things that are a little too tropey. I'm not going to be surprised if we get the onsen episode, or like the beach episode kind of thing, or the cultural festival thing. It's a school anime.
Oh
If
yeah.
it wasn't like I wish they would do because um, there's an anime called Five Angels at the Coffee Terrace or something like that. I forget the name of it, but it's college students, adults, and they could do the same thing with older characters, and I would probably have liked it more because it'd be more mature. I'm not saying like mature as in rated R or anything like that. I mean mature as in like the conversations and stuff like that. Um, but I think that's my only complaint. Like, I wish they did more slice of life in older context. And that's not just this show. That's pretty much any show because, I'm an older man. So it's kind of,
It's nice when the romances are like at least college plus.
yeah. Or if it's in high school or whatever, it's more innocent, which this is, which is fine. Right. But like, yeah, that's the one big complaint that I have. Otherwise, I think really for a rom-com compared to what I've watched in the last couple of years, this is near perfect so far. I don't think they've really done anything here that has made me go, ugh, like I didn't like that, or I wish they would change this. They're doing a really good job, in my opinion. But I want to hear what you have to think because you had negatives going into episode 4, so I'm curious.
So the first complaint I have isn't really a complaint about the show itself.
Mhm.
Um, so I watch most of my anime dubbed if I can.
Okay.
I have my specific spice of ADHD comes with needing to do things with my hands. So I am usually trying to use my picky pads that I love, which is just a silicone shape with like beads inside of it that you pick out, or I'm drawing, or I'm crocheting, or I'm cleaning. I'm always doing something when I'm watching anime. And if it is
Same.
subtitled, I have to sit down and stare at the screen because otherwise I'm going to miss something. And it is very difficult for me to get through multiple episodes if I can't multitask.
Okay. Yeah, I can agree with that.
This is where my complaint comes in. In the dub, the Russian is not translated.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no clue because you messaged me and you were like, "It's dubbed," and I was like, "Good for her."
So I've actually been watching it in Japanese with subtitles because I want to know what the Russian says.
So what's your second complaint?
Okay, so my second complaint is a little bit more serious. It's an actual complaint of the anime and the rom-com trope in general.
Okay.
I am honestly very impressed that they made it all the way to episode 4 before doing this. But it is when Arlia slaps the main character.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, for context of the scene, well, first off, she has just confessed her love to him in Russian.
Yes,
And she doesn't know he knows that. But he actually has his first little blast of, oh my gosh, I'm catching feelings for this girl, because it reminded him of how he felt with the Russian girl when he was a kid.
mm-hmm.
And she catches on that he was thinking about another girl, and she gets upset and like grips his hand a few times. And that part was a little bit but it was kind of funny. And then she's like, if you want me to forgive you, you have to accept my hand. And she slaps him so hard he falls on his ass.
Yeah, he almost does like the weird anime protagonist, like Darth Maul flip.
Yeah. And this has been a very, 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 very common trope in anime rom-coms, specifically
Yeah,
very, very big in harem anime. You see it all over the place in like Love Hina of, and I've never liked the trope, but it's where the main male character accidentally is into a situation that isn't their fault and they get the crap beat out of them for it.
yeah. There's a lot of anime that do that, and there's actually I forget the name. If I remember, I'll message it to you. But there's an anime that this happens actually, and like he's like, no, wait a second, this is really what happened. Let's all think about this, and then they're like, okay, he's right. That was our fault. And I'm like, wait a minute, it exists. This
Right? Common
exists.
sense.
Yeah. No, I'm on board with that. Obviously, I'm gonna say a couple of things here that might not be trendy, but he does mention DV in episode 2, right?
Yeah, so he is aware, like it is very real world
Yeah.
aware.
Yeah. He is a very well written male character, and this is a very well written Japanese cultured anime where the response to males in a lot of the anime have been the same way. And fine, it is what it is. In my opinion, I'm 41 years old now, so things like this don't necessarily bother me. But when it's brought up to my attention, then I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? That's not really that cool. um, they kind of try to make her the sensitive, like I have been squelched my whole entire life. Like, I'm doing all the work, and, the payoff is like heartache and everything is hard for me. And it's a very much pity Alya show. And like, I kind of learned to get over that because everything else was so good. And I agree with you that like they could do better with that trope,
I really,
which is like,
sorry, I didn't mean to
sorry.
interrupt you there.
No, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I hope that there's not a lot more of that in the future. Like that's a joke that isn't used that often. I'm sad that it is. I wish that that portion of the scene hadn't existed, especially with how real world aware the anime is. Like this wasn't a situation where the main character can get, punched through 3 walls and be okay in 5 minutes. Like it knocks him
Truth.
on his butt, and he walks her home and then asks him if he needs ice for his
Mm-hmm.
face.
I also think too, and like I know it's not to make it any better or like give them like the benefit of the doubt or whatever, but like in a lot of those scenes, it's kind of like the male is meant to overreact to those things as well. You see it a lot in anime, like we'll take Dragon Ball Z for instance. Like you have Goku who's like a god essentially, and then Chi Chi walks up and like yells at him and he's like, oh, my bad. And he's like cowering in fear and stuff of his wife. They do that trope a lot because it's like trying to pander. And in this show in particular, I think it's kind of the same thing. I don't think that it's almost like his character's playing it up as far as the anime is written, but because of the interaction between the two, and like you said, do you need any ice for your face? And he's like, oh, I'm okay. It just stings a little.
No, he says, I can't feel that side of my face.
And so it's like, is he playing it up? Is he just, acting? Is it? They kind of like try to leave those open ended to make people feel like it's not that bad. But from your standpoint, I understand what you're saying. Like, it's not good. It shouldn't like show DV in that way. Like, make a joke of it like before.
Like,
you know what I mean?
I am usually not one that likes to talk about like, oh, this is problematic, that's problematic. But
Yeah.
I've I'm going to school for like psychology, and we're learning in one of my classes we're learning about genders and masculinities and femininities and a lot of stuff like that. And it's just when things like that, when you see something on screen of this, again, very real world aware show where it's like, oh, this is an okay situation. Like if you as a man, or my husband as a man, were to get slapped by your spouse or by your girlfriend or whichever, your reaction should be to laugh it off and basically say, thank you, ma'am, may I have another?
Right.
And it's not okay. And that being said, there was a scene back in episode 1 where he does accidentally see her panties and she reacts somewhat violently. I think she kicks him away from her. I had
Away from her. Pretty sure it's
I actually didn't have a problem with that scene. Um, One, because I didn't know how real world, again, aware the show was at that time, and two, that it was all done in like a very comical, laughing way. He kind of deserved it. He did accidentally
right.
touch somewhere he shouldn't have touched. It seemed to be an automatic reaction on her part, and it didn't like it flowed very well. Whereas the scene in episode 4 just it just I don't think it played out very well at all.
I get it. Let's keep the anime that's supposed to be light, you know?
Yeah. That being said, it's not a deal breaker by any means. Like, I'm absolutely going to continue watching it. I don't enjoy the anime any less. It was just aw, you got so far. I was so proud of you.
And then you had to mess it all up, didn't you?
That being said, what about you guys? What about you viewers out there? Have you seen this anime? If you haven't, did this podcast make you want to watch this anime? Is this even in your range of stuff that you would normally watch? I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know.
Yeah, hope you guys enjoy it, and thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Can't wait to hopefully have you on here again.